Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to our Friday highlight here in World of Warships, where today I'm going to be dropping it back down to the mid-tiers. We like to try to cycle between the high tiers and the mid-tiers for the Friday highlights. And so today we're looking at the Tier 6 Japanese torpedo destroyer, the Fubuki, which honestly I really like. Playing Fubuki, I think she's still a decently strong torpedo destroyer for tier 6 here in the game. Of course, if you get bottom tiered and you start seeing tier 7s or heaven forbid tier 8s, Fubuki will begin to struggle quite a lot, to be honest. But when you get the same tier matchmaking in tier 5, she is really potent and really strong with her torpedo armament, which is a triple tube layout here. So I had two good games to pick from. I went with this one. I don't get as many achievements and all that with this one, but I chose this one because this battle is a little bit more difficult, and I feel like there's some more learning points here compared to the other video. So I hope that is helpful in watching here today. So we're here on, I think this one's called Straight. And I feel most of the time I get this map, it's usually standard battle, you know, it's just the one enemy cap and your cap, and other times it's the domination, of course. That's the typical ways you see this. So here we're going to see those torpedoes at work. Typically what I like to do on this map in Fubuki or torpedo destroyer is come out here to the far flank of the cap and kind of let the enemy team make the first move on the cap, generally speaking, because what you'll see happen here, particularly with this capture point versus alpha, is that you'll have destroyer captains who either they smoke up or they won't smoke up, and what they do is they just sit behind the island. So just knowing that tactic, I'm like, okay, I think he's somewhere in there. We'll see. Yeah, there he is. And we get the devastating strike as we barely just missed the first blood from the enemy Devonshire taking out one of our destroyers. So, and you're going to see me communicate with my team as I have a couple cruisers and a battleship back here behind me, and that we're going to go ahead and take C. So we've killed the destroyer. So now we are the spotting stealth king on this flank. So now it's time to take C and see what we can do about the enemy team. So the enemy team is going to be kind of on this flank, is going to be playing a little more further back. This is actually pretty good. This is a pro tip. If you know a cruiser battleship, that they're not just running right up on C, they're actually kind of playing this HE spamming game at range, especially the cruiser. So I was quite impressed by our cruisers. Two of the cruisers on our flank, not that one, but the other two that are still alive. They do a really good job in working this flank. So what's unique and special about Fubuki? Well, I feel like it's fun sometimes to talk about their war history, so I'm just going to briefly read what the WoW's wiki has. The Washington Naval Treaty restricted the tonnage of battleships and aircraft carriers, leaving ships lighter than 10,000 tons aside. This encouraged and developed development of a new class destroyer design. She was to have a displacement of 1,900 tons, 127mm guns, and a triple tube torpedo launcher. The project was approved in 1926, resulting in 20 ships being built under it. Fubuki entered service in August 1928. During World War II, she provided protection of the Japanese landings in French Indochina, Malaya, and the Dutch East Indies, and she engaged in the Battle of the Sunday Strait in Midway as well. So just on the surface, some of the ship parameters. In terms of her detection by sea, she has currently the 5th best in the game at tier 6. And then naturally her torpedoes is really where they begin to shine. So in terms of torpedo damage per minute, Fubuki has the best in the game, followed by Shinanomi. In terms of her range, she has the 2nd best in the game for 10 kilometers versus the best right now at tier 6 is the Leon, 12 kilometers. Her damage is 3rd in the game, only barely beaten out by the this is a tier 6 USA destroyer, the Monaghan, and then the French destroyer, the Aigle, which I really like. And then talking about the reload times as well, Fubuki would be placing 7th because some of the other torpedoes, they don't hit quite as hard here as the Fubuki, so they nerf the reload time a little bit. So all in all, a very torpedo capable destroyer. As we were trying to see if we could help out, you noticed in chat I told the cruisers, I think I did, if they want any smoke, just let me know. I don't mind dropping a smoke for them, so I only will really drop a smoke unless they ask for it or they confirm, because I've tried to drop smoke for teammates before on cruisers and then without them acknowledging it, and then they just sail on through it and keep fighting and then die 5 seconds later. So that's typically my approach, because you know, as Fubuki, this is a torpedo destroyer. It's not this amazing gunboat destroyer, although the guns are decent, but it's not a gunboat destroyer. I decided to go ahead and throw some torpedoes up towards the midsection of A, because I'm wondering if something like the Kamikaze or another destroyer might end up showing itself and coming down here towards Bravo, since enemy teams or our teammates are kind of up there on the A line. So I decided, well, we'll see and find out, and then I'll maneuver back towards Charlie Cap to see if there's anything further I can do to help with my teammates. Now, when you are a torpedo destroyer, even though there's no aircraft carriers in this game, we do want to keep our AA off, which is just the P key. That's the default key to turn your AA off. Sometimes you have some cruisers, some battleships that'll be throwing out depth charge strikes, airplanes, air depth charge strikes, and then it gives away your location. So we don't want that to happen here. Now I'm going to go and talk about the pros and cons as we kind of kite out this Omaha to see if I can get some torpedoes lined up there, because this Omaha is just pushing in really aggressive right now. But the pros on this ship: accurate, high velocity, and long range guns. But don't let that mistake that this is a gunboat destroyer that has a longer reload time. These high explosive shells definitely do hit hard, but you will definitely be outgunned by other tier 6 destroyers. Respectable health pool compared to her contemporaries of other nations. Detection radius is better than gunboat destroyers. She is likely to run across. Accurate. If you build into the concealment, she'll have a concealment of 6.04 or 2.69 or 2.7 by air, in rounding it up. The high volume of torpedoes and high flexible torpedo launcher configuration with the 3 triple tube launchers is really helpful. As you see here at work, we can kind of fan them out, which is often what I really like to do. Upgraded torpedo range allows greater versatility and opens up the possibility of long range launches. Now, on the flip side of that, her top speed is the lowest of her tier. She can't outrun pursuing American or Russian destroyers, and Russian destroyers are just fast in general, or even some enemy cruisers. Her upgraded torpedoes are slow and have a large detection radius, making them easier to avoid, with detectability range and speed, giving the enemy players more of a reaction time to try to dodge her torpedoes. They have a longer reload time and very poor turret rotation of the main battery guns. And the handling is a mixed bag, with her rudder response being good, but her turning circle radius is rather large compared to other competing tier 6 destroyers. So now here at tier 6, tier 5, I mean, normally you're going to, if you do get in gun engagements, you're going to be using your high explosive as you pick up a torpedo there in the enemy Cavor. But you can definitely use the armor piercing if you catch a broadside. Omaha, a Phoenix, you know, I guess you probably shouldn't see a Phoenix, an Omaha or other tier 6 cruiser as an example, to citadel them if you're close enough, but at the same time you don't really want to be quite that close to cruisers. You're kind of playing at arm's length. You do really want to try to utilize your concealment as best as possible. You know, the closer you are able to get to enemy ships, the more likely you're able to land a more accurate torpedo strike versus spamming them constantly at 10 kilometers. So I do like when this is a 6 kilometer max conceal, once you build into it with your commander. I do like, let's say as an example, like maybe 6.5, 6.6, 6.7. That's where I like to drop my torpedo, so I can give myself a half kilometer in case the enemy team decides to dive in, so to speak. Here I'm trying to see if I can catch out the Emile Bertin. So I'm going to fan those torpedoes out there, because one of the things you are looking for as a destroyer player is, are their teammate, is any team player trying to torpedo strike? Is he trying to go for cover, right? Sometimes you see players just do things and you're like, I don't know why they decided to turn out there. It didn't make sense for them. But at times, you know, if you see your teammates are evaporating, maybe you're like this French cruiser and you decide I want to go for cover. So it looks like we guessed right. Now the question is, do we land a torpedo or not? No. So he's able to avoid that strike, unfortunately, but we do cause him to have to turn in back into our cruisers. So hopefully they can make quick work of him, as we're about to lose our Omaha here. And here you get to see those high explosive guns that work. I don't think we've shot at anything till now, actually. Yeah, that's correct. So the Kamikaze is definitely a considerable tier 5 threat. It's a very strong torpedo destroyer in the form of a premium. So we do want to be mindful and careful of that. So I'm going to go ahead and smoke up here because I see this Emil ton pushing up, and so I'm like, hey, let's just go ahead and switch the guns over, get rid of him, because I really don't want him here, because I'm going to have to step out of this smoke screen because of the Kamikaze is likely dumped torpedoes into the smoke screen. So the sooner I get out, the better. So that means this cruiser just needs to die. So I feel more comfortable and disengaging. I'm paying attention to the minimap, knowing that there's an island right there, so I don't just notch her right into it, so to speak. You also have ship-based ASW as well, which is good because you are going to see, start seeing submarines at tier 6. So they are. How strong are these actually? Let me see the depth charges of Fubuki. Let's see. I don't know. I'll look here instead. 40-second reload time, number of charges 2, 6 bombs into charge, damage 4,600, as we just took a bit of a hit there from that enemy repulse. So this is one of the reasons why we really wanted to disengage, as this battle is close, right? We barely have the lead in terms of points. Where I say we have 100 points lead, but it's 2 cruisers and 2 destroyers versus 2 destroyers and 2 battleships. So the enemy Kamikaze is playing it really smart. He's actually pushing me. He's keeping me lit. So this destroyer player tells me that he's knowledgeable. He knows what he's doing. And so, especially when you run into not just only gunboat destroyers, but other opposing torpedo destroyers in the game, even though he's at tier 5, he's showing that he seems to be knowing what he's doing. So I need to respect that. So we're going to just keep kiting out. Now, in the meantime, I don't know if you've noticed on the mini-map, I noticed it when I was kind of just skimming through this replay. Our friendly Hatsuharu hasn't been helpful for quite some time now. He sailed all the way away from A down into the channel, and now he's sailing back up. So you can kind of continue to keep your eye on him to see how not helpful he has been for the last like 5 minutes, I think, almost in this battle. So. And I didn't notice that. So for now, it's just mainly trying to focus on helping out my Dallas player here, trying to get some torpedoes if we can land them on the repulse. So I've been now kind of like really pushing here in the chat, like, hey Dallas, like, let me smoke you up. That would be good. But we see the torpedoes look like they're going to be effective here, and they're going to take out the repulse. The other enemy destroyer is back there, and now he's engaged to Hatsuharu, who's trying to push in. So he does help us out here, and at least helping us know where that other enemy destroyer is and that he's low. So we could easily take that gun engagement with that enemy French destroyer that remains. So now we're going to push back up on the cap. We were detected. So I'm going to ping the map. He's somewhere in there, I believe, and that turns out to be right. So now I intend to kill the Kamikaze. We're going to go ahead and kill our throttle completely here, because he's likely already dumped the torpedoes towards across my nose. So I'm actually going to turn in, and I'm going to go to the left here, just because I knew that Kamikaze didn't have much time left, so he's probably panic torped, and so he's just going to launch them where he thinks he has the best chance, and he did drop them if I decided to stop there. So that was good on him that he just didn't drop all of them way out in front of my nose. So I decided to go ahead and use the smoke here to drop a smoke wall. Now you don't have as long as an action time, and as right when I did this, I realized, oh shoot, the Dallas is kind of sailing out in a way. I think he wants to utilize the island there too, and helping to stay dark perhaps between the enemy Mitsu. But we're going to switch to guns here for that destroyer. I do get briefly spotted by the Mitsu, so that's a bit of a bummer. We had one of our torpedo tubes incapacitated, so it's not quite, we have another rack that's about to come off cooldown, but I kind of feel bad because I didn't get to drag that smoke screen out as far as I wanted to, so just be mindful of that these aren't the American smoke screen times. I'm pretty sure the Mitsu knows, you know, he wants to get out past this island, and I'm having to kind of be careful of like turning in. Because I know he probably wants to see if he can blat me here, but we're going to go ahead and drop one of our racks that we had ready to go. So that's going to be helpful here, and one of them is going to hit the island. So we're just going to kind of chill out here. We have a next rack of torpedoes about to come off of cooldown as we drop another 2 torpedoes in here on the enemy battleship. And then kind of debating here, okay, he just fired, the torpedoes have come off cooldown. So let's go ahead and step out and let's torp him. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna drop a rack as if he's continuing to reverse, and then I'm gonna drop one forward. Assuming he sees me, he immediately respawns because it's only gonna take 1 rack, like maybe 2 torpedoes is all it will take to kill him, I think, from knowing the damage of these torpedoes. And we're going to angle out and away. Present a small profile for the secondaries of the Mitsu firing upon us, and it did just take 2 torpedoes to kill him because of the torpedo reduction protection belt that enemy battleships have here in the game, even though these torpedoes do hit quite hard. So you know, you take your time and just playing around the map. You're not in a rush. You're trying to look for opportunities to land successful torpedo salvos, and that's kind of where Fubuki shines a lot, especially you have to deal with a lot of radar and that like you do at the higher tiers. So 106,000 damage with the high caliber, not high caliber, Kraken Unleash and Dev Strike with the 9 torpedo strikes. We're going to top our team with 2,103 base XP. So it was the Molotov and the Omaha. They did a really good job, so I complimented both of them. They really played our flank well and taking time and not being overzealous. Sorry, it was the Dallas. That was the other one. Molotov and Dallas. They played really well. Of course, as the other Omaha player did and how he landed. So he took 11,000 damage. Our flooding... I missed it. I didn't space that one out far enough. And then here you can see this premium account all said and done where we landed with the Fubuki. So Fubuki is still a fun tier 6 destroyer. I think she's quite a good destroyer here in World of Warships. Especially when you are facing tier 5s, tier 6s, and tier 7s to an extent. But once you see tier 8s, and you have the radar that you begin to see, and the Russian radar 12 kilometer, and your torpedoes only 10 kilometer. And other 9-kilometer radars among some of the American cruisers, and Baltimore 10-kilometer radar. Then you have destroyers. I think like was it Orkin that has radar? Then you have, Xian Yang could run radar. You know, you just kind of begin to see more of more difficult. There's a lot more things you have to keep in mind when you're playing the higher tiers versus the mid and the lower tiers here in World of Warships. And honestly, I quite like coming down to the mid tiers and lower tiers just to relax and chill out. Because if I just continually play a high tier all the time, I get kind of exhausted at the game. So this is Fubuki. I think she's still quite the gem in the game. But you just have to respect her strengths and respect her weaknesses as well, in that you don't want to take a prolonged gun engagement with another enemy destroyer like a Nicholas or a Farragut, because you will lose that fight really quickly. You always want to try to keep enemy destroyers that have better gun armament than you at arm's length, and try not to pick those engagements until maybe you get to the end of the battle, and then the opposing destroyers, like a Farragut, has much less health than compared to when we first started the game, and then you have the health, and you can kind of give up those additional hit points because you have a greater hit points than that enemy gunboat destroyer, and kill him as an example. So that's kind of my advice when playing the Fubuki when you run into other tier 6 gunboat destroyers. So with that being said, if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. And tomorrow we'll do an upgraded commander build video here on the Fubuki. So until next time, take care.